All right, so last time we left off on page 20, we're going to go and move forward to page 21 using variables and strings. Okay, so in the book it gives you this example where you have first name and the person's last name, right? Now, what you're going to do is use the variable string, which is indicated by an F for the format. So here you can see the F for format. And now you can see anything inside the curly brace, that's going to be seen as a string. So we're formatting it, and anything inside this curly brace is seen as a string. So you have the first name and the last name, which are both seen as strings. And then we're going to combine both the first name and last name and print it out. So down here you can see the output of that. Go ahead and move. You see the output of that right there. Let me go ahead and move this screen. Just go ahead and move this code out of the way. Okay, there we go. So this is what we're looking at. Now, let's go ahead and flip our, actually, let's look at the bottom of page 21. So now we're going to do the same thing, except this time, we're going to be following this code right here. Okay. And here we have the first name and last name. And again, we're printing out, except this time, we're going to insert the full name into a sentence. Right, so you see print, F format, hello, and then you see the curly brace, which indicates a string, full name, which we're inserting, and then we're going to use the title method to capitalize both the first letter in the first name and the last letter in the last name. And so the output will look, I'm going to move this up a little bit, it'll look like that. So say hello, and first name, last name, exclamation. Okay, and you can see it capitalized the A, and capitalized the L. So great, let's go ahead and see what else we got here. We'll go ahead and flip page 22. And we're going to be adding some white space, tabs, and new lines. So now we got that. We're going to go ahead and scroll this up. And we're going to move this down a little bit. All right. Okay, I believe we covered that already. Move that down. Page 22. We're just looking at page 22. So print Python. Right, so if we go down here, notice that it prints Python. All right. Okay, so page 22, we're going to print Python. So now you see Python printed down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment this. So I'm going to delete the hash or pound. And now on line 8 and 9, you see oh, actually, that's my comment. So I'm going to uncomment line 8, and that's going to print. And here you can see \T, which is going to create a tab. So it's going to tab and then Python. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'm going to comment this out so you can only see the output of line 8. Okay. So here you can see the output of line 8. There's a tab here. See that space? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and comment that out. Let's move down here. We're going to print language, and we're going to put it on a new line, and we're going to tab it, and it's going to say Python, then a new line, tab it, and it's going to say C, and then a new line, tab it, and it's going to say JavaScript for all the languages. Okay, so let's go, and it should look like this. I just commented this out. That's what the output will look like. See how it has a tab, Python, tab, C, tab, JavaScript. So let's go ahead and execute that. And here's the output down here. Okay, so now we're looking at page 23, and it's going to ask us to print out Python. So here you see we put Python in the favorite language variable. We're then printing that variable out, which contains Python. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and then also we're taking that variable, and then our strip means that we're going to strip whatever space is on the right side. So you can see I put a space here. And so it's going to strip that off, so that space will no longer be there. And then we're going to print out favorite language. So the first favorite language should have the space. The second favorite language that prints out shouldn't have the space to the right. All right, let's Control V. So here you can see Python and space, and then here looks like there's still a space there. Let me look over this. Okay, so I had to fix something here. I had to just, when we're taking my favorite language and we're passing it to the rstrip method, we just have to place that in the favorite language variable and then print that variable out. And so by doing that, you can see that this first Python has space. The second Python does not have the space to the right because it has been stripped. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out here. All right. So now we are just looking at strip, which is left strip. So strip space to the left. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to uncomment this out. So delete the comment here. And delete the comment here. So this is taking favorite language. I'm going to comment that as well. And we're going to place Python with a space to the left in a variable called favorite language. And then we're going to take that variable and we're going to pass it to the outstrip, which will strip the space to the left. And then we're going to place that into the favorite language variable. And then we're going to print that variable out. And when we do, it should strip the space off to the left. So let's go ahead and execute there. And you can see that there is no space to the left here. So it's successfully stripped space to the left, but there is space to the right, which was not removed because we didn't use rstrip. Okay. Then on page 24, we go over single quotes and double quotes. So when you have a string, you can use double quotes around it and then print that message out. Let's go and do so. And you'll see a printout just like that. Now, what if you use a single quote and within your string, you have a single quote like this one right here. So Python, the S, the single quote. And at the end, you also have a single quote. Well, that's going to cause an error. So let's go ahead and replicate that error. I'm just going to go ahead and comment this top section out here. And you can see it's caused that error. So if you have a single quote within your string, you're going to want to use double quotes because the first quote is the start and the last double quote is the end. So first double quote start, last double quote end. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and insert that here, which try to get it in this message. Insert it right there. You can see I put a comment afterwards with the pound symbol. You could do that, and that's a really great idea if you want to be able to go back and read your code later on and know exactly what you're trying to do. Okay, so it looks like we get an error here. Let's go ahead and print this message out. Hopefully this works. Let's give it a shot. There we go, it worked. All right, great. And likewise, so if you have double quotes within here, maybe you double quote strength. Just delete that. Put single quotes around here. Print that out. And as you see, it can print it out and you have double quotes within your string. So just keep that in mind. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to page 26. Actually, page 25 has a try it yourself section. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so page 25, try it yourself using a variable to represent a person's name. So in this case, I use Danny, which is my first name, and I put it in the name variable. Then I have print, format, hello, and anything within the curly brace is going to be seen as a string, which is going to be my name, dot title. So it's going to capitalize the D, which it's already capitalized. So let's try lowercasing it. See that in action. Would you like to learn Python? So let's go ahead and execute that. And as you see down here, it prompts, hello, Danny, would you like to learn Python? Awesome. Now we're going to comment this out as we move on to the next challenge. Okay, so 2.4 is going to have us lower and uppercase my first name. Okay, so we're going to delete that. And so first we have Danny in the name variable, then print hello name lower. So we're passing the name to a lower method. Okay, when we pass it to the lower method, it outputs it in lowercase. Okay, would you like to learn Python? So let's try it out. And as you see now, Danny is, the D is in lowercase. So here it's an upper, and because we passed it to the lower method, it's going to output it in lowercase. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and comment that out. And so next we're going to be using upper. So it's going to print my name in uppercase. Okay, so we'll just delete this. That out. And now you can see, hello, Danny, would you like to learn Python? So let's print that out in uppercase. All right, great. Let's go ahead and comment that out. Moving on to 2.5. All right. Find a quote from a famous person you admire. So in this case, I have my quote here. So here we have Nelson Mandela. We're placing it in a name variable. We're then printing it off. Let me just delete that there. We're printing it off in format, which is going to have a string inside of the quotes. And here you see the greatest glory in living lies is not in failing, but in rising every time we fall. Okay, and then it's going to append the name Nelson Mandela dot title. So it's going to capitalize the first and letter of the first name and the last letter of the last name, or the first letter of the last name. Okay, and it's going to place it back here as a string. That closes off with a single quote because, as we mentioned earlier, if you're using double quotes, you want to use the opposite, right? So if I'm using double quotes, then I want to use single quotes as the first to indicate the starting of my string, and the other single quotes to indicate the end of my string. Okay, so let's go ahead and print that out. And here you see it's printed out, and it's penned the last name. All right, great. So let's go ahead and comment that out so we could move on to the next one here. And next we're going to tab Mandela. So we have the name Nelson Mandela, but here you can see Nelson tab Mandela. So let's see what that output looks like. Oh, looks like we ran into a little issue. Let me take a look at this real quick. Oh, looks like we need to insert a comment there, right? Because this line isn't part of our code. So we want Python to just ignore it. So let's try it again, and we get the output. But you can see Nelson Mandela is tabbed out. So let's go ahead and comment that out now. Now down here, let's go ahead and leave the comment there. Ran into that issue the first time. All right, so delete this. Nelson in Mandela, so it's going to start a new line. So Nelson Mandela, right? So let's print that out and see what that looks like. And here you can see we have Nelson and then Mandela down here. And we'll also use the L strip, which is going to strip the space to the left. Let's go ahead and see if it does that. There's no space there. So maybe. Okay, so that's great. We've used L strip, we used the in, so now it's taken Nelson, placed it on the first line, and then Mandela, and placed it on a new line down here. Okay, let's move on. All right, next we're doing math in Python. So here we have print 3 plus 5. So if we output that, this is what it's going to look like. We're just going to output all of these so you can see what the outcome of it. All right, 3 plus 5 is 8. There we go. Let's print it down there. Now, what if we're adding and multiplying? Will it follow the order of operations? And the answer is yes, it will. It will add 2 plus 3, which is 5, and then it will times 5 times 5, which is 25, right? What if you're adding decimals? Does it work with decimals? Yes, it does. Your product will be in the correct format. Well, what if you're dividing? Yes, it will. It'll give you your number, right? It'll divide them. But if your number isn't just like 4 divided into 2, it may give you a float, right? If you're working with odd numbers, prime numbers, it may give you a float. And a float is just the remainder of whatever you're trying to divide. So it will output only the remainder, okay? And what about adding decimals? You can add decimals. You can add whole numbers, in this case 1, or 2.0, which isn't, yeah, I'd say it's a whole number, but it's decimal, right? So it will come out in decimal format, 3.0. And here you can see page 28, we're using underscores to separate our numbers. So 400 million is going to be separated instead of by dots, going to be separated by underscores, just to help us read it better. And the product of that will be Oh, we didn't print it out, of course. So let's print that out so you can see what that would look like. Take this variable here. There we go. And that's what it looks like, right? So it's unaffected, it ignores the underscores, and it prints out the number. But when we're reading it, it looks a little better. Let's go ahead and comment that out. Now, what if you're trying to assign multiple variables to multiple values? You can do that, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So now what we can do is we can print this. So print x. Let's see if it does that. Yeah, it probably wouldn't. Okay, so we'll have to do it individually then. Oh, of course. Comments always get me. Okay, let's delete the comment. Let's print it out, and there we go. We got 0, 0, 0, right? So it's printing out X, Y, Z. Later on, we're going to learn how to work with lists. I think if you're trying to do something like this, in this case, you have 0, 0, 0. You could probably just utilize a list for this instead of doing it this way. But we'll go over that later in the next chapter. All right, so let me go ahead and comment that out. Scroll down here. Constants. Okay, so sometimes you're doing numbers, and let's say you have like a fixed value. So a fixed like interest rate, if you're trying to determine the interest rate and how much you're going to be paying for interest, right? So that may have like a fixed amount. So you want that number to remain constant when you're doing your math, whether it be like 2.5 or whatever that interest rate is. You want that to remain constant, right? Whatever numbers you throw at it, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, you know it has an interest rate of 2.5. So that way you want the interest rate to remain constant in that respect. You want it to be 2.5. You want it to stay 2.5. You don't want somebody to go in there and change it because that's the fixed interest rate. So let's go ahead and show maximum connections. Now in Python, constants are indicated by being in all caps. So in here we have max underscore connections, which is equal to 5,000. And that's going to remain constant. It's going to remain 5,000. So we didn't print it, so now we have to print it. Okay, there we go, 5,000. All right, great. So to end this all, this is towards the very end. So we're looking at page 31. They go over comments, okay? And comments are, the way you can insert a comment is just like I've been doing so with the pound symbol, with the hashtag, with the hash, whatever you like to call it. You just want to insert that before you start typing whatever your comment is. So here, you can input the hash, right? And that's great because like I mentioned earlier, you know, the written commandments of coding, you want it to be simple, you want it to be readable, and you want comments, 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 so that later on you're able to understand what you're trying to code, and not just for yourself, but for other people who may be viewing your code or helping you out if you run into any issues. You want them to be able to look at it and understand what they're reading. So that's all, folks. That's pages 21 through 30. I'm going to be creating a video for chapter 3, and we're going to continue on forward. Thank you for watching.